right, we're going to get started. I really appreciate you all for being present. And as we get started, I just want to start with the connecting activity that is rooted in what we will be talking about today. So, we are really here to discuss supporting writing sentences and reading fluency. And right now, I am very grateful for your presence because sewing into your child and just being present with your child to help them in their writing is so important. And so, right now, I have this strange sentence on the screen that reads I'm sorry, not the sentence. The directions are fix the sentence, and the sentence reads the dog. So, what do you think is wrong with this sentence? Anybody can come off of mute and just share your thoughts.
It's because it didn't mention what the dog did.
Thank you, Ariana. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge with the group. And that is correct. We don't know what this dog is doing. We just know that it's a dog. And so when you're writing sentences, you want to make sure you have a complete thought. And of course, we know this. And thank you for your knowledge of sentence structure. And that's one of the Stillman scholars airing their knowledge out with us today. So thank you. When it comes to writing sentences, I know it's really hard for our scholars right now. Some of them are finding it very challenging to come up with ideas. And it's just really important that our scholars are writing incomplete sentences. That means there's a subject, like we heard my scholars share. There's no action. We don't know what the dog is doing. There was no verb in the sentence. And so we need to see all of these, and that's how we know it's a complete thought. So when we're thinking about supporting our scholars, when they're writing their sentences, it's all about adding the details. So when you're at home, please go ahead and ask your scholar, what is happening for this subject in the sentence? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Why does it happen? And as we're asking these questions, we're supporting that expansion in their writing. I just want to find out if there are any specific questions or maybe some challenges that families are experiencing right now when it comes to your daughter's writing assignments from school.
Yeah, it's Mario. So Mariana, she loves to write, as you probably know already. She does a great job of completing sentences and making her thoughts onto paper. The only thing she need to work on is her penmanship.
Gotcha. So I have
Stop.
some tips for handwriting. Stay tuned. In the next part, I'm going to just introduce some supports around reading fluency, and then I'll give you some tips on handwriting. So thank you for sharing. Any other challenges that might be coming up that anybody want to share? Feel free to come off mute. And that's fine. So I just want to briefly touch upon reading fluency. Reading fluency is reading smoothly, accurately, and with expression. And so when our students are reading, we don't want them to sound like robots and as if they're just reading each word at a time. There has to be a fluid motion. And so our scholars are being tested during the school day with their teachers on reading fluency as well. And so I have some tips in our Queens Getting Lit Academic Support Toolkit, which is a Google Classroom where we will talk about some activities you can do to support that reading fluency. And so some strategies around reading fluency are echo reading, where you will read a short passage out loud, and then you have your scholar basically echoing your tone and pace, reading the same exact passage. Another reading fluency strategy that I'm presenting to you all today is called punctuation play, which is where you show a sentence with no punctuation or expression, and you all take turns reading the sentence based on whatever punctuation you put there. And so the goal that I am presenting in this workshop today is really committing to about 10 minutes of reading aloud daily through activities that I'm sharing, like echo reading, and I have choral reading that we're going to look at as well, so that you are committing time to fluency. Your scholar understands the importance. And when you just spend just those moments, it doesn't have to be long, but just making it impactful. All right. And so, one thing I do like to say is if you have time during cooking, or if you have a bedtime routine that you are utilizing with your scholar, incorporate these activities into those routines. I'm curious if there are any routines or any days, I'm sorry, any times within the day that you all have already experienced utilizing some of the strategies that have been shared. No pressure. Just wanted to give space for anyone who wanted to get off mute and share any of the experiences you all have been having. So now I'm going to talk about this Queens Getting Lit Academic Support Toolkit. There are specific sentence writing and sentence structure activities. I have reading fluency activities and handwriting support activities. I just want to name that there's an activity called Fine Motor Skills, which really relies on hand strength and dexterity. And that is important when it comes to when your scholar is writing, when she's writing her poems, ideas down. We just have to strengthen those skills in their hands. And so things like playing with Play-Doh, you might not think that those are activities that can help build and promote better handwriting, but they are. All right, because we're using just the tips of your fingers as well. We're talking about pinching and shaping the dough, using tweezers to pick up objects. And I said pom poms, but those are just fancy cotton balls, the little ones you see at the Dollar Tree. That helps also with strengthening those fine motor skills. And lastly, I wrote down lacing activities like threading. So if you ever have seen like a thick lace where you're pulling beads through, that's also very helpful when building up those fine motor skills. Another game that moves away from handwriting but into reading fluency is called Sight Word Speed Game. And so this is an opportunity where you and your scholar get to work together on a game, playing something that's going to help support their understanding of their reading, right? That's going to build their knowledge of the sight word. And so you have sight words already written on flashcards, and you flash the card one at a time and have them read the word as quickly as possible. And your timing using your stopwatch, if you have any kind of device that most of us have that will be able to time your scholar, the goal is for her to improve each time you go through those different rounds. And again, please reward them, because we know that those intrinsic rewards are good, but we also want to give them physical rewards as well and acknowledgement. So now I'm going to move into our toolkit. And in this toolkit, you will want to move to classroom. And we're going to start with the handwriting support for scholars, where I was mentioning different activities. And here, what I've done is listed 8 activities, and I give the information, just like I was talking about, why it's important, and then an example. So I did already speak on the strengthen fine motor skills. So I'm going to go down here to high interest writing activities. We want our scholars to engage in the practice of writing. And we know that when they do more of it, that's what's going to help improve how it looks when they're doing it well. And so I want to encourage you all to have your scholars writing grocery lists at home, maybe for their favorite meal, creating a thank you note, making a birthday card for a family member, really engaging in a writing activity that's structured, but it's low stakes. That's not something they're turning in for a grade, but then they get to practice. And then you can also support and make your observations of how they can improve in their writing as well. Are there any questions?
Just a clarification for the toolkit. Do we have access to that or no?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking. I love that question. So I'm going to go back to this. Oh, come on now.
Can I do it on my tablet?
Okay, I've done it 3 times. I am going to send you an invitation. I thought there's a way I could click this and pull up the link, but you will definitely get an invitation to this Google Classroom. And all families who are present at the end of the presentation, when I remove the share screen, I will put it in the chat.
Got it.
So let's go back here. That was a very valid question. I did share this toolkit last month. And so if you scroll down, there's a lot of activities here. We have spelling support where you can do individual, scholars can find individual games and directions on how to play those games. There are games with the family. But going back up to now, we're talking about writing support. There's some ideas and examples of what you can do with your scholar for writing support. For example, we have because sentences. We know that our scholars need to really work on expanding, right, those ideas that they have. And so the idea for this activity is you're giving your scholar a sentence starter and asking them to add because and explain why. So I have some sentence starters like I like reading adventure stories because, and then they would add why. Drawing is my favorite hobby because. And that's just again helping that expansion of sentences. Another game that I wanted to share with you all today was story starters, which are also just the beginning of a prompt for our scholars to basically create their own story. And you all could then write your story together. The concept is a family story where once the scholar has written so many words, the family member also joins in and adds writing as well. So it becomes a shared writing experience. Above writing support, and there's many more different writing activities here for you all to utilize. Um, I'm just going to go up now to the reading fluency support for scholars. As I mentioned earlier, there's echo reading where a family member reads a short paragraph or, excuse me, passage or sentence, and then the scholar echoes. We have choral reading where you all read together at the same pace so that she can then match your pace and your expression. One thing I know kids love to do at this moment is record themselves. So you can have a scholar record herself reading a short passage and then play the recording back and discuss where this reading sounded smooth or choppy and just give good feedback around how they can improve their work in reading with expression or slowing down their reading. My last activity that I want to share with you that's in this toolkit is partner reading. And please stop me if anybody has a question, let me know. Just get off mute and I will be happy to answer. Partner reading is an opportunity where you both are reading a text. One family member is going to read a sentence or a paragraph, and then the scholar reads the following sentence or paragraph. I use this often during Queens Getting Lit. It's a method that I enjoy because I like to read and then give scholars the opportunity to read a couple of sentences as well out of the text. And so we're all sharing the load of the read of the story. And so that concludes me going through this academic support toolkit. There are handwriting supports, reading fluency supports, writing supports, spelling supports. Just a reminder, I know we are all very busy and life can become very stressful. Please do your best to incorporate literacy at home by integrating any of these activities into the day or the week. Maybe it's not possible to do them daily, but if you say, okay, let's commit to 3 times a week doing one of these strategies, that will truly impact the outcome of your scholar's academic performance. So I also want to name that fine motor skills are key. So practice writing every day. Our scholars are so used to devices in 2025, and there's no shame in that. But we also have to be mindful of writing and making sure writing is that daily practice. I will also be providing for those of you that would like to have writing sheets and access to writing sheets that are basically the trace. If you remember the old school tracing, and you can put whatever words you want for your scholar to trace, whether it be her name, whatever. Those are additional practice tools that I have access to and would love to share if that's something you need. And lastly, I just want to name that small windows of time are most important for these types of skill building. We don't want to jam and overdo it with our scholars, so just make sure that if you're reaching about 10 to 15 minutes of doing an activity, take a break and then revisit whatever you were doing at another time, just so that the scholar doesn't necessarily feel like it becomes a tensious or contentious learning experience, because we know that when the scholar begins to feel any type of stress, learning then is taking a back seat and that retention of the information is not happening. So thank you all for your time. I hope you see my workshops are not intended to be long, but also just here to share space with you. If you have questions, have concerns, I would love for us to now share one thing that you are grateful for in your child's learning, as we are a team learning and growing together.
I would say I'm very grateful that my daughter is so enthusiastic about learning and writing and reading. That's two things that she absolutely love is reading and writing, which doesn't happen with a lot of kids. They like to play and stuff. So I'm very proud of her, what she has accomplished the last, several months. So I'm very proud of her.
Awesome. Thank you. Shout out to the intrinsic love of writing and reading.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I would say this is Shahida Bell, Rylea's mom, and it's been a joy, always a joy. And the exciting part of the hands-on, so she comes home with these boards and magazines, and she's doing this. She's like, Mom, I have this project and Queen's Getting Lit. And so anything that has to do with Queen's Getting Lit, she does not want to miss it. So, I ditto on the excitement of going to the class afterwards, even just her joy is different. It's very much more light and genuine, like authentic. And so I am seeing that in her. And so I love and I appreciate the class, of course.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, this is Aunt Jeanette Brooks. I'm Lauren and Leah's mom over in Marina Vista, Mrs. Stevenson. What I love is pretty much what Shahida was saying was it's more that confidence that they have. It's the confidence builder, right? And so one of their projects, they came home, they did affirmations. And so I can walk around my home. I left them up too. Post-it notes are all around my home with little affirmations that I am enough and, I can make people smile and things of that. And so I love the confidence that they are seeking from Queens Getting Lit.
Hello, this is bonus content for all of you so that you can see the value of our Queens Getting Lit academic support toolkit. The reality is there are a lot of activities that you can allow your scholar to do independently just by logging on to Google Classroom, selecting the Queen's Getting Lit academic support toolkit, and going to the classwork. So as soon as you get into a classroom, you'll see the actual stream. And so you want to click onto classwork. And today, in this moment, I want us to focus on reading fluency support for scholars. If you're thinking, what type of activity can I do with my scholar? Find an activity like silly sentence fluency race. Write funny sentences. So you're going to write funny sentences. She can write funny sentences. And then have your scholar read those sentences smoothly and quickly. You want to then time them so that they are getting the fluency speed improved. So that's the point of something like silly sentence fluency race. Now I'm going to the writing support for scholars. As I mentioned, these are activities that can be done solo. The young ladies can go onto the Google Classroom. I have an introduction here that says how to use support for scholars. In this space, you will find 10 at-home activities families can use to support scholar sentence writing and sentence structure. We know that writing is so important for our scholars, and practice makes habit. And so if we are not practicing, those habits are not ingrained. And so I just want to encourage you all to use this platform to practice. Story starters. Young ladies, I think I've selected this before, so I'm going to move on to another option, which is picture prompt. You all can look at a picture from a magazine, a picture online, and then begin to write sentences describing what you see from that picture. For example, if you want to just Google image picture and then begin writing sentences based on that Google image picture, that is perfect. We don't have to make this a difficult activity to do. However, we do want to make sure our young ladies are writing as much as possible. And like I said, practice makes habits. And we want our students to feel like they are not only writing because they have to write for school, but they get to write because they are creative geniuses that allow that creativity to just flow through them with these types of activities. Lastly, I want to scroll back up to handwriting and show you that there are some activities here like tracing and letter formation practice. We don't always have to use pencil and paper. You can use sand or shaving cream. I have rice tray, but that's just basically if you want to use a baking tray. to trace letters with your finger. So, for example, you would put on a tray a lot of shaving cream. It gets a little messy, but at least it's fun. And the scholar uses her finger to practice writing, right? Because we want to help with letter recognition and muscle memory. For our scholars who are beyond this, I just want to remind you that it's important, families, to celebrate progress and not perfection. We want to create a level of comfortability with making mistakes, but also being encouraged. And so I really encourage you all to create a handwriting success chart that will also allow you to track the progress of your scholars and their handwriting successes. There are other tools in this toolkit like spelling support. Young ladies can create their own spelling word puzzle by writing a word on a strip of paper and cutting out the individual letters and mixing them up so that they are creating their own puzzle word game. All right. And they can just use their spelling word list to create those puzzle pieces. Another activity I really enjoy is rainbow spelling, which is when scholars are using different colors to write out a word, and then it looks like this. If the word is red, just like in the example, we're going to use a red crayon and write the letters RED. Then pick up a new crayon color and write the letters RED again over that first color. Get another color, write the letter RED over those two colors. And so eventually you'll begin to see a rainbow pattern of the different colors used to spell the word. It reinforces language and spelling and also that handwriting skill of writing because we want our scholars to be writing. If you are interested in getting access to this toolkit, please message me directly. You can message me on Class Dojo. You can reach out to me at Dr. D at queensgettinglit.com. And I am here to support you all in your scholars academic journey. This is a learning experience that we are doing together. I hope that this is helpful for you all because ultimately, the intention is to provide as many supports as possible that you all can do in your home that you don't have to pay for.